What I want to do right now is bring up our first guest, Santiago Arana. Santiago is with the agency in Brentwood. Santiago, come on up. Give him a big round of applause. All right, sir.
How are you?
Good to see you. You sit over there.
Thank you.
All right, let's start. Why don't you tell the group a little about where you are right now in your business in terms of what kind of volume are you doing, what's your target market, how you're set up?
All right, good morning, everybody. Right now, as of yesterday, I checked, have about 15 listings, close to 200 million. I have 25 in escrow, and I closed 118 so far for the year.
Closed 118 million.
So I'm on target.
Not bad. And how about last year? What'd you close last year?
Last year was 150.
150 million. And do you have a target market that you focus on?
Well, my goal is to get to 300, and I have targeted the high end, but also cover smaller, medium. I mean, I kind of go anywhere from like $700,000 condos to $30, $40 million houses. I like to mix it. I like to have my hands in all ranges.
And any geographic area that you focus on?
Yes.
Or are you all over the place?
Yeah, mainly I'd say 60, 70% of my market share is Palisades, Brentwood, Santa Monica area. I cover Malibu, and I do also Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Sunset Strip.
Great. So right now you're at 118 million closed. The goal this year is 300?
Yes.
300 million. Last year you did 150 million, 25 active listings.
Yep.
And so let's...
15.
Excuse me?
15.
15, okay. So let's go backwards. You were born where?
In Bolivia.
Bolivia. And how did you when did you come to the United States, and how did you get here?
I moved here in May 2003.
All right, so a little over 10 years ago.
A little bit over 10 years ago. I moved to Santa Barbara to learn English.
And why'd you come here? What was the motivation? What was going on in your life?
When I finished college in Bolivia, I started to work for the government, and it was very unstable. So I was not very happy with what the situation was in there. And I spoke with my parents, and I thought it would be a good idea to do a master's degree on finance. And I got a scholarship to go to Israel to do that master's degree. And I found out that it was only taught in Hebrew or English. And I didn't speak any of them. So they told me, okay, well, we'll keep this scholarship for you for next year, but you need to go and learn one of these two languages. So I walked out of there, and I was like, okay, probably English I'm going to use more in Bolivia. So I started talking to my parents and friends, and I'm like, I think the best way to learn English really is to be submerged in a place where I can only speak English. I don't have much time. So
the goal was you had this scholarship to go to
Israel.
A graduate school there, or?
It was a kibbutz, which is an after graduate school.
And they only taught in Hebrew and English.
Right.
You knew neither.
Zero.
So I need to learn English.
Right.
I'm going to go to the United States and learn English.
So my mom had a cousin in Santa Barbara that invited me to stay at her couch for 8 months, and I took the
Invited you to stay on her couch for?
8 months.
8 months.
Yeah.
Great.
So that's how it started.
And you landed here thinking what?
When I was in the airport, I remember in Miami, and they asked me for my passport to say, where are you going? And I'm like, Santa Barbara, and the guys were like, I was like, why are they doing that? You know, to me, it was like whether I was going to Kansas City or Santa Barbara. It's like
you had no idea.
I had no clue where I was going. Okay. I arrived to LAX around 3 o'clock in the morning. We drove to Santa Barbara. I went straight to bed. I didn't see anything. When I woke up the next day, I was 1 block from the ocean, and I was like, oh wow, I like this. Yeah.
And what happened?
So I had $120. I ran out of it really quick. And
so you came here with $130.
20.
120, okay.
And I went to my aunt, and I asked for money for a beer. And she said, go get a job. I was like, what? So she took me to drop applications on all the restaurants that were around Montecito and downtown Santa Barbara on the State Street. And I got a job as a busboy on a restaurant called Cava in Montecito on Coast Village Road. I don't know if any of you know. Great restaurant. I'm going there on Sunday. And I started bussing tables because I couldn't communicate to people. And I was going at night to adult education, ESL, English as a second language. And I picked up the language pretty quick. I was going out with some friends, and I'm a social guy, so I started to meet people, and I tried to make an effort not to meet people that speak Spanish, because I wanted just to be forced to it. And it was really hard. I remember getting out of the class is such a stress for the brain, I guess, trying to learn and do all this in a different language, that I passed down the bus so many times, and I woke up in Carpinteria, and I had to take the bus back. So I was exhausted for the first 3 months, and within 4 months, I was able to communicate pretty well. So they made me a waiter, and I started waiting tables. And then
so were you still thinking you were going to go back and go to Israel that time?
No,
or?
that time I started to like it here. And, being in Montecito is not like waiting tables just in any place, I mean, there are a lot of wealthy people. I waited in a lot of people, Brad Pitt, Oprah, this, and for me it was like amazing, so that really started to...
How did you feel waiting tables?
It was great. I mean, it was such a great experience, I mean, it just made me so hungry and made me look that, oh my God, there is a world out there that I wasn't exposed to, and I want a piece of it, so I saw money flying in the street, and I'm going to go and catch it, So I started to get curious about stuff, or what else I can do. I have a bachelor's degree, I can do something with that. And I had a cousin that was doing loans. And he was basically...
And what year is this, roughly?
This is 2003. Yeah, still 2003. And I guess the loan business was amazing at the time, because he would sit on his computer for 2 hours, make 10, 15 grand, and then he'll go and surf all day. I'm like, what do you do? And I was like, can I do the same? And he was like, yeah, you need to get your license, but I think you'll do better in real estate. I mean, you speak 2 languages now, and you have a good personality, you like people, I think you do really well. And I kind of stuck in my head, and I said, oh, okay. So the time went by, I moved to Los Angeles, and I decided to go and get my license.
And what caused you to move down to LA?
The time passed, and I started to become hungrier and hungrier, and the ambition was big, and Santa Barbara seemed to be too small. I felt a little cramped there, so I wanted to go to the big city. And besides, I met my wife, and that was a big influence to move over here. She was living here.
All right, so that's what brought you down here. Okay.
Yes.
Just wanted to clear that up. Okay. So you're here in LA. Do you have a job, or what are you doing?
Yes, I moved to LA. I got a job in the Valley at a restaurant called Café Bisou. And I remember I have a car that I bought for $100 that I was afraid to drive it because it breaks all the time. So I was working double shifts, morning and night, 7 days a week, because I wanted to have money to, live okay. And at the same time, I started to study for my license, and I went to take my test. And I remember driving with this friend that I met at the school for the test. And so we're driving to downtown. It was raining. I think it was back in 2004. There were heavy rains, and he started to, kind of talk about what we're gonna do in the exam and questions and this. And I go and look at him like, what is landfill? So because I was studying with my dictionary, because there were a lot of words that I have no clue what they meant, and he now says, I looked at you and I was like, there's no fucking way this guy's gonna pass the test. So I did pass the test, I got my license, and I started in Keller Williams, Beverly Hills. And for about 8 months to a year.
So hold on. So day one, you have your license. What are you thinking? You thinking you're gonna kill it?
Right.
Are you feeling overwhelmed? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that there is a lot of opportunity out there, and I'm always I like things now. So I'm trying to figure out what can I do now to just start killing it, and it's not happening, okay? So I'm thinking, I'm like, who am I going to sell a house? I mean, I don't know anyone. I don't have relatives. I didn't go to college with anyone here. I don't have any high school friends. What do I do, you know? So I'm going in the restaurant and waiting at table and go and say, hey, do you want to buy a house with me? It just doesn't, you know, it just doesn't make any sense, you know? For me, it was almost like sort of like a double life that I was living, you know? I was going to the restaurant, I was doing my thing there, I was making cash, and then the day I was trying to go on door knock and do everything that you can do to
All right, so you're working real estate during the day, and then you're waiting tables
right
at night. And so did you start, how'd you get your first deal?
I sold their condo of one of the waiters that was working with me.
All right.
Yeah. And I double-ended it.
And did you have any clue what you were doing in that first deal?
Not really. I don't think anyone does, you know. Right. I mean, you can read as much as you want, but every deal is so different, and, you know, it's just not really. I didn't.
Okay. And did that trigger anything in you, that first deal?
Of course, yeah. I mean, you know, when you get that check, I mean, it was a big check, and you get ultra motivated, you know. It's like, oh, I want more now. I don't know, but that's the way I am. Every time I sell something, I get a little depressed, you know. It's like, oh my God, now what do I do now? You know, so I like to keep rolling it. So, I mean, that's one of the things that I think is very important in this business, to close deals, but also, you know, you need to put your seeds out there, because as you close, you want to be opening other things and make sure that you have, you know, depth in this, you know.
All right, so how did your first year go?
My first year went bad. I mean, I did that one deal only, and I was door knocking a lot, and I was doing a lot of all the things that they tell you to do, but.
So where were you knocking on doors? Do you remember?
At the time, yes, I was in the area of the Grove, on the Colgate, all the flat area. It was funny. All that area is predominantly Orthodox Jewish, I think, right. People that live there. So here's this Latino knocking the door. Hey, my name is Santiago. Wham, you know, it's like, all right. I definitely picked the wrong neighborhood, and then I moved to Los Feliz. So I said, maybe a good idea to go and say, hey, I'm your new neighbor, you know? So now I have an excuse, I'm a neighbor, oh, they like that, and then I can just jump in the side and say I'm a realtor and you want to sell or something. It didn't go well either.
Were you getting frustrated in any way? Were you
very frustrated, because for me, when I moved here and I made a decision to stay here, there was no going back. I mean, there was not an option not to succeed. So being there was very frustrating. And it's like, I got to do something. So I started thinking, and I started, you know, I asked, you know, so there's got to be someone out there that is going through this, that doesn't know anyone, that is going through this, that can give me some advice. And somehow the destiny put a guy in my road that, I searched him because someone suggested I should talk to him. And I met with him, and you know, he gave me pieces of advice, and it worked. You know, I mean, the first thing he said is, you got to change your attitude. You
got to change your attitude.
Yeah.
What did he see in you that needed changing?
Well, I went to his office. We sat in the conference room, and he said, I don't need an assistant. I have 4 assistants, and I'm not looking for an assistant. If you're looking for a job, I'm not the right guy. I was like, oh, well, okay. No, I don't want to be an assistant. I just want advice. And you speak Spanish. You came from South America, and you know, I want to know, what the hell do you do? So he got up and he left. I was like, oh shit, he's upset. He came back and he gave me a book, and the name of the book is The Science of Getting Rich. So I grabbed the book, and he said, read this book, and when you're done, call me. We'll meet again. So when I read the book, I was trying to understand why he wanted me to read this book, and why he wouldn't talk to me and tell me, do this, do this, do that. And as I'm reading the book, I'm like literally starting to, why nobody told me this about before? You know, it's like, so I started to change my attitude on how I would go door knocking, how I would talk to people, and how my attitude in the day would go, you know. And obviously,
talk about what was that change.
The change was, you know, going with a positive attitude, you know, being optimistic about what you're going to do, and set goals, and believe, and have faith. And, you know, one of the things that the lady was talking before said that fear and faith, you know, choose one. Can't have both. you cannot. This is like vinegar and oil. You know, faith and fear cannot hold hands, period. You have one or the other one. And I don't know how spiritual you are or you're not, but it's just the way it is.
And was it hard for you to change your attitude, or did it come overnight? What happened?
No, it takes work. You know, you need to adjust. And I mean, I'm here 24, 25 years old, and for 25 years I've been doing that. You know, school, Catholic school in Bolivia, where they tell you that that's too hard to do, and that's not possible, and that's this. I'm in a third world country, so I have to reset all that to, yes, I can do it, I can do that, and I can achieve that goal, and I can be that. And so it takes adjustment, you know, because you kind of have this internal fight for a while, and then you start just kind of quieting that negative voice, and then you overcome that, and then it becomes a lifestyle, you know, you make it an everyday thing.
So when did things start to click for you? Was it year 1, year 2, year 5?
About 3.5 years into the business, started to click, and things started to happen in 2007, and then the market collapsed.
When you look at the first 3.5 years, what do you remember from that period of time?
In business-wise, what
Yeah,
I remember?
business-wise.
I remember everybody making money but me. You know, I remember like all these guys going out and listings and this and that. I'm like, you know? So that's what I remember.
All right. And so 2007, you started to feel like...
2007 started to feel good. And now I got a few good appointments. I have 2 or 3 listings. I'm sitting open houses now. And
So door knocking, open houses,
company,
were you
yeah.
doing anything else?
Yeah, I kept doing the door knocking, but I started to do it in a different way. Okay, as opposed to just go and grab a farm and just door knock and door knock and door knock, I started to go in the office and hear what the needs of all the agents would be. Okay, I need that, I need this, I need this, I need that. So then I will pick an area for where that need was, and I will go, if someone needed something in Brentwood Park, there was a teardown, I started to door knock and tear downs in Brentwood Park. So then I will go back to the office and say I have a pocket. Once I get the information or I get to know the person, and that had a much, much, much more effective result.
And when the market crashed, did it make any difference to you, impact you in any way?
Yes. When the market crashed, as I was I actually started to do well, so I stopped working in the restaurant. So I finally made that transition of, okay, I'm not in the restaurant anymore, I don't need it. My business established enough where I can just do this, and the market collapsed, and I was like, oh man. And for a second I thought maybe I need to go back and get a job at the restaurant again to help, and then I just sat down and I said, no, that will be going backwards. I cannot go backwards. I need to move forward, and I'm going to make it happen no matter what.
So talk more about that moment. Was it a moment? Was it a period of time?
It was a number of things that got me to a point where it was just very frustrating and tiring and hopeless, and I went through a few personal issues too, and it just got to a point where I kind of stopped and I said, nobody's going to do anything for me. No one's going to come and give it to me. No one's going to come and give me a job. I have to make it happen because this is it. My bank account is starting to shrink again, and I don't want to be there. I've been there. I hated being there. And I just kind of, it's interesting. I think I mentioned this to you. I mean, it's that point when the darkest moment is that you get introduced to your real self. And I felt like I got introduced to who Santiago Arana is. And I met myself, and from there on, it just took off.
And who did you meet?
I met the guy that was tired of dealing with the BS people. I didn't want to go and waste my time with people that were making me believe they were going to do business. They were just sucking on my time. I was going to go out and work every single weekend, open houses, Saturdays and Sundays, every weekend. And every time there was a holiday, I would have an open house. I was the obnoxious guy in 2008 that when it was 4th of July, the only flags that were out there was me. And what happens is, you start getting these results, and then you know that it works. I mean, I was sitting and I remember an open house that I was sharing with someone for, I think it was Memorial Weekend in Beverly Hills. It was a $9.5 million house, I think. And nobody was there. It was dead. The city was dead. There was no open houses. And this English family walks into the house. And I start talking to them. And I very quickly can find out, you kind of become good when people walk in the house. This guy is a buyer, he's not. I knew the house wasn't for them. It was a father, a mother, a son, the wife, and a little girl. And I started talking to them. They were very polite. And I said, I know this house is not for you. I can tell. And the wife just opened up immediately. And she's like, my husband is very sick. We need to be here for you. We need to go to UCLA. We need a house immediately. And this is not for us. You're good. Can you find us something? We need it now. So talking about being knowledgeable, which is very important. At that moment, I knew exactly everything was on the market. So when she started describing what she needed, all these properties start popping in my head that would be the right fit for her, two specifically, one in Brentwood and one in Beverly Hills. And I said, I have two properties that you need to see. And she said, okay, how about tomorrow? It was Sunday. I'm like, sure, done. So I made appointments. We looked at the one in Brentwood. They liked it. We went to the one in Beverly Hills. They loved it. They put an offer in cash. We closed in 3 days for 8.5. So that kind of shows that, when you're there in the times that people are not, then you take advantage of it. You start, you are the guy. That's the only option. And she told me, she said, the only reason we bought with you is because you were the only guy out there. we didn't know anyone else. And then I ended up selling them several properties.
When you made that sale, what went on inside you? How did you feel?
Oh, it feels great. I felt good. I felt that actually it was a confirmation that what I was doing and my plan was working.
And kind of walk us from there to where you are now in terms of your thought process, your strategy, the actions that you've taken.
My thought process hasn't changed as much. It's more of numbers and goals have grown. Learn from mistakes, learn from things that you do and you realize I should have done that. Lose some deals, lose some listings, lose some clients because you make mistakes, and it's okay as long as you know what the mistake was and you fix it and you learn from it, So what is it that you're doing that has led to this tremendous success? I would say number one, work hard. You just have to work really hard because working in our business has been exposed to people, has been in open houses, is door knocking, is meeting people, or whatever it is that you're good at. If you're good at sitting at lunches with people, do that. And the more you do that, the more opportunities are going to come to you.
Let me ask a different way. Why do you think people do business with you?
I think people, and this is my perception of why they do business, I think people do business with me because I have an accent. Just kidding. I think that at this point, I'm very knowledgeable on the market and on the contract and on the real estate as a whole. I think people do business with me because they feel comfortable with me. I have a way to kind of understand personalities and how people are and not act the same way with everybody. You kind of just have to get to know the person first and know how you're going to go. You cannot be pushy. You be a little bit more pushy. That person needs to be pushed. So I think people find that comfort. They feel what I heard a lot from clients is they feel very comfortable, and they feel about 5 times I have emails that people told me that they didn't feel they were dealing with a salesperson, that they felt that I was honest, that actually my advice was something that they wanted to follow because they felt it was true. Which is huge, because one of the biggest hurdles that we have is, this is a salesman. All he wants to do is sell me this house and move on. And I think I think we need to change that, I think that only hurts us as a professional, people stuck to using a realtor, they're paying a bunch of money, but they don't really want to do what he says. That doesn't make any sense, It doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, if you're going to hire me, I want you to listen to what I'm going to tell you because I've been doing this for X amount of years, So.
What are the things that you think you do really well in this business?
I think I'm very good at listing appointments. I enjoy them very much. I love being in the room. I love competition.
Do you have a presentation?
Yes.
Is it structured?
Yes.
Talk a little bit about what you do when you walk in for a listing presentation?
I mean, I do have a presentation, and I think that it's based on personality. I think some people need to look at something and go by that and explain. I don't. I don't like to put the book and just go page by page. I like to ask a lot of questions. I like to sit in a room and meet the person and just, break that ice, First, I like to get a tour of the house, so I know exactly what I'm dealing with. We looked at the house, and by then we kind of break the ice, and we sat, and I asked a few personal questions. I kind of have an understanding of who this person is. I looked everything in the house, okay? I looked at the picture. Oh, this guy plays golf. He likes cars. Whatever is all that's information that you need to be really paying attention to, So when I sit with a guy, unless it's a big, big listing where I do a study on the person prior to the appointment, because I want to have an understanding of who I'm dealing with. For the average listings, I just go and I learn in that moment from the person, and I talk. We create that. So very quickly you'll find out if you're going to get along with this person or not. There's some personalities I know this is not going to work. And it's been occasions when I just basically said, I don't think I'm the right guy for this, because I know that this guy is going to drag me, So then I get into the presentation, and I just kind of I ask a lot of questions. Why are you moving? What are you selling? Where are you going? What's important to you? How quick you need to sell? All those questions, so when he starts going into the presentation, I know what's important for him. I know what I need to focus on. It's kind of like cool, It's kind of like meeting a new person, a new girlfriend or something, that you're talking and you're just learning and you just know what they like and you just kind of,
And do you go through a marketing plan? Do you go through what you do?
Yeah, so then, if they ask, of course, there are people that are just there, and then you talk to them and you tell them what you do, and they just sign, and there are people, they want to know everything, and so you need to be prepared. So I bring it, so I'm prepared, but, in the agency we have something different. It's not the same as any other company. We have a listing presentation, and that's it, and then you can add to it, you can customize it or whatever you want to do. And then the marketing plan is personal, I think, right? How much money you spend is not company really related. It's on what you're going to spend on ads, on this and that. So I just line everything that I'm going to do for the house, depending on what the caliber of a listing is, and I show it to them, and I make it as part of the listing agreement. I put it as the last page of the listing agreement, and I get them to, in some cases I initial it, so they can see that I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and they like that.
So in a fairly short period of time, you've cracked into the high end of the marketplace. Everyone, they want to sell high-end real estate. How is it that you've actually done that?
I don't have the...
Did you aspire to do that?
Of course, yeah, for sure. From the beginning, I was like, if I'm going to be selling real estate, I want to be selling the biggest houses. I want to be doing the high end. It's just cool, You walk in these beautiful houses, you meet very interesting people that they might bring opportunities that are non-real estate related to you. It's just very interesting,
Was there any intimidation at all? Any thought process that was getting in your way? No, you just said, this is me.
It's the same, yeah.
And so what would you share with people? What are the great things about selling high-end real estate, and what are the challenges?
Well, the great things about selling the high-end real estate is when you get paid. So when you get that big check or that big wire, that's the greatest thing, number one. Two is when you get to meet people, you get to meet very interesting people, and it's fun, you get exposed to a world, and you meet these guys that they're doing things differently. They open your mind, and you learn things, and it's fun to show beautiful houses that they have, bowling alleys and this and that, and the challenges is, the biggest challenge is dealing with people that they are obviously very successful, and a lot of them don't look at you as the person that they want to hear the advice from, and they all have a lot of egos, so they kind of want to do they're used to doing what they want, and you just have to make sure that you're there and that you bring value to it, and you need to present yourself as, I know who you are, and I respect that, but you got to respect what I do, and that's why you hire me, and you're going to pay me a big check, And that's not right. This is what you should do. And that's one of the biggest challenges, because there are people that are open to that and there are people that are not. Challenge number 2, normally you've been dealing with business managers, lawyers, accountants. All those guys, they're not your friends. You need to make them your friends, okay? They start with an attitude of, I'm against this guy. He's a realtor. Now, this is how things are going to. So you need to change that very quickly. You need to talk to the business manager, and they will know when you talk to them and you get them to believe, I'm not the average realtor that you're talking to. You're not going to talk to me like that. We're going to do this together. I can help you. You can help me. Let's work as a team. So once you set that table, the attitude on the business managers, the attitude on those lawyers change. And then you can use them to help you, actually. They become your biggest ally, because at the end of the day, the business manager is the guy who's going to tell the guy, do it or not do it.
How are you set up? Do you have an assistant, a full-time assistant?
Yes.
And you've had her for how long?
Close to 4 years.
Did you have an assistant before her? Or?
Yes.
So you've had an assistant for how long?
6 years now, 5
Right.
years.
And what does she do for you?
She does everything from scheduling, running my escrows, answering the phone, sending the contracts to get signed via DocuSign. Everything that she doesn't need to interact necessarily with people, so I can be doing that.
And do you have any other support? Who does like transaction?
Yeah, we have a TC in our company that is mandatory to use, so there's a transaction coordinator. And the way how we are set up is, we kind of help each other in the company, all of us, there's agents that they work in the company that they are always willing to help, and, you bring them into a listing and you share the listing and they help you, and they might need you to go and get a listing. So we kind of see ourselves as a big team as opposed to teams within a company, and that's been working well for us.
Talk about that a little bit. You've been at Keller Williams, you were at Partners Trust, now you're at the agency. What do you see?
I was at Keller Williams, Sotheby's, Partners Trust, and now I'm at the agency.
Okay. What do you like about where you are now? What works for you?
What works for me is that exactly what I told you. Is like I don't need to build a team. I don't feel like I need to have a buyer's agent because I was struggling for a while when I was a Partners Trust. I was this close of getting someone that's going to be my buyer's agent, and then have someone to help me with the listings, and then the assistant, and build up this team. But I'm like, it's been done for too long. It's just kind of the same thing that people do, and when I heard the concept of what the agency was doing was like, let's all help each other and build this big team as opposed to teams within teams, that sounded like good to me. I like that. I like to be able to not only work with the people there in my office in Brentwood, but I can go to Beverly Hills. If I get someone to call me and give me a great lead in Los Feliz, then I can go and call someone in that office that specializes in Los Feliz and say, let's do this together, That kind of stuff I like. I feel like I have more people that I count on now. I have a big team.
So it feels much more collaborative than competitive?
That feels like that to me, yeah.
Great. And in terms of marketing, the marketing is done through the company, so you don't have to do your own things?
Yeah, the whole marketing situation is also very different, before I felt like I need to come up with my ideas because I was never happy with how things looked. I'm very picky on being really clean and just, you want to do the things the way you want to do. And now I feel that's lifted off my shoulders. I don't have to be dealing with that because, we have a great marketing company. It's not just a couple people, like 18 people I think now. They're real pros, and they do stuff where I might have to tweak here and there a little thing, but it's not really, all those things, the marketing and the help and the escrows and the TC and all that can clear up my time for me to do what I'm good at. I'm a salesman. I want to be selling. I want to be meeting people. I want to be in appointments. So that's why I like it there.
So, which leads naturally to the next question. What does a typical day look like for you? What does a typical week look like for you? If there is such a thing.
I don't think it's a typical day. And then that's what I like. Having a typical, I think most of us, one of the biggest reasons why we do is we don't like to have a boss, a direct boss, and we don't like same stuff. You don't want to wake up every day and go and put your card and do the same thing, you know. It's like every day is different, you know. You kind of set up to create your own days and your appointments, and it's fun, you know. You go out, if you feel like being in the office, you'll be more in the office. If you feel like going out there, you are out there. So for me at this point is Mondays and Fridays are days that I spend more time in the office. I set up everything for the week on Monday, all the ads, all the open houses, who's going to see what, everything. Respond a lot of emails, send emails, touch base with all the clients. You know, you need to talk to your clients. Tuesdays, obviously, super busy. Open houses, meetings, all that kind of stuff. Wednesday, Thursdays, Fridays, usually showings, listing appointments.
And are you doing any prospecting now, or
Yeah.
what kind of prospecting are you doing?
You know, I never stopped doing the prospecting that I did from the beginning, which is, it's just changed a little bit, because now I have a lot of buyers, so I have a lot of needs. So I have specific needs where I send letters, and I door knock for that specific need. It's less of a waste of time. You spending those 2 hours knocking on doors or sending letters, knowing that if someone calls back, there can be a sale.
Great. And do you start early?
Early.
You work late?
Yeah, both.
What do you do how do you get yourself ready mentally for what you do each and every day?
I'm a very spiritual guy, so for me, because what we do, we need to find something that keeps us grounded and give us that faith and that strength. Times are not always like right now, you know, and I've gone through a bad time, and it's on those bad times you need to find some sort of support, whether it's spirituality, whether it's a book, whether it's a coach, a friend, a group of friends. You have to have something that is going to help you go through those times. For me, I'm a big spiritual guy. I don't go to bed without meditating and praying every night, and I do the same thing every morning. And when I do it in the morning, it's early, and I'm done doing it and just focus on my goals. I see myself and I visualize a lot. And I visualize where I'm going to be for my 40th birthday, let's say. And I know exactly what's going to look like. I know where I'm sitting, who is on my right, who is on my left, what I'm drinking, what I'm eating, what it smells like, what it looks like, everything. And when I'm done doing the meditation, I get up and I jump and I clap really hard, and the whole house vibrates, and my kids are like, "Daddy's up." So that's how I start the day.
What drives you?
What drives me?
Yeah.
Life drives me. I just love life too much, you know. It's so much fun. I mean, there's so many things. I wanna see more. I wanna learn more, and I wanna taste more things. I wanna dress better. I wanna drive a nicer car. I wanna travel to places. I wanna help people. And based on the books I read and people that I talked, in order to enjoy life at its fullest, you gotta have money, you know. So it's not like the money is the, you know, it's like if you really want to develop yourself, you know, if you want to get to know things better, if you want to taste the better things and all that stuff, you have to be able to afford it. And that gets me to go and work harder, you know. I'm very ambitious. I mean, not everybody might feel the same way, and I apologize for that, but that's who I am.
What do you love best about real estate?
What you say, the sky is the limit. I mean, you create your own thing, you know. I mean, you can go as far as you want to go. There's no stop. Nobody, I mean, there's how many houses in LA? I mean, people usually think the opposite. It's like, oh my God, there's so many realtors out there. It's so hard because there's so many. No, there's so many houses that not all the realtors, they have a license in LA, couldn't handle it. I mean, there's that many houses there out there.
And you seem to get, you know, the more you sell, the more you want to sell.
Yes.
You're not content in any way. In
No.
many ways, you're just getting warmed up.
Yes.
Where do you know, what's next for you?
What's next? I want to be the #1 agent in LA.
Little applause there. How does it feel when you say that?
Feels good.
and you know it's going to happen, correct?
It's going to happen.
Absolutely. So let's open it up for some questions for Santiago. So talk more about the letter, who are you sending letters to? How do you figure out who to target?
It's really a numbers game. We know that, right? So if you're sending 200 letters, you might get 5 phone calls, and you might get to meet 2 people, and you maybe make a deal or make a showing. Now, if you send 100 letters to that specific target area where you know that the buyer is looking, and you get closer. So you start trimming all the nonsense, and then you get closer. So then you might get 10 phone calls, and you might get 5 appointments, and so your possibilities grow the more specific you get. Right, of course. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, obviously you need to look into your MLS and public records. If someone is looking for a tear down and they want to build a big house, make sure that you're going to door knock in the 10,000 square feet lots. You want to go in the 20,000 lots. So you just kind of you need to do your research before you do it. And make sure that they're not active.
This is an attitude of what I call connecting people, property, and possibility. I mean, that's what you're doing in a very specific way. He uses a special font. The weight of his paper is a secret. There's only 33 words in his letter, and he only mails them out on Tuesdays between 6 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. That's how it happens. Is there anything unique about what you're doing?
There's nothing really unique about it. It's just basically what's your need. I mean, I have a client that is looking to build a house. If you think your house will be a match, call me. It's really simple. It's not I'm Santiago and I'm the agent, I work with this. I mean, they don't want to read that.
Do you pre-qualify your buyers? Do you? And with is it any different working with a high-end buyer than anyone else?
Well, normally a high-end buyer is going to come through a referral from someone that you sold a house or a client. You just don't go on the street and a big dude just say, hey, I want to sell my $20 million house. It doesn't happen that way. So it's going to come from a source that you trust, or it's going to come from you sitting at an open house and someone driving in a Ferrari and saying, hey, whatever, and you get that, Now, it can be a rental, happened to me. So how you find out that person is real is you go straight to the point. You need to ask that person questions. You don't have time to waste. You need to ask them, so where do you live? Where are you moving? And what do you do? You Google him. What's your name? Take the name for sure. Take a number. And you very quickly will know the person is not. I mean, anyone that is high-end shows up in Google. And if they don't, they need to tell you what they do. Their company should.
Have you gone on many wild goose chases?
Many.
Many?
Yeah. I showed a $12 million property in Beverly Hills, and the guy, I swear, he got me. I mean, I was like, this is the buyer. He scheduled a showing for 7 o'clock at night. I bought a bunch of wine and cheese and the whole thing. He shows up with the mom and the wife and the kids, and they're looking at the house, and he started to talk too much. So he said something about property that I knew it was not on the market. It's like, oh, we just sold this property and we made an offer. And I was like, what's the address? And he said the address, and by knowing the address, I knew he was lying. So I kick him out of the house. I close the house. It's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm so upset. I get in my car, and I drive by the bus station, and he's waiting for the bus.
Very good. Go ahead, Joseph.
You mentioned market knowledge. What do you do on a daily basis to improve your market knowledge?
What do you do on a daily basis to improve your market knowledge?
MLS porn. I'm in the MLS all the time. I mean, I sign up for Trulia, I sign up with Redfin, I sign up with things because I got tired of hearing my clients, I saw something came up on Redfin, and I go in the MLS and it's not in the MLS for some reason. So I want to know what my clients are looking at. So sign up for all those, and I love going to the MLS and finding what's new. I look almost if I can every hour, the hot sheet, and then Hey. Yeah,
What do you do, again, from a mindset point of view to keep that attitude that you want?
Yeah, I go to the gym pretty much every night at 8:30 at night when it's quiet, and I have some colleagues that have joined me actually, and they see that I go like a little crazy in the beginning. I go on the treadmill and I do my affirmations and I repeat something 100 or 200 times or more. So affirmations are good. If you want to develop faith on something that you feel a little like this, like a goal, a monetary goal or a sale or something, and you just do affirmations, that helps you. The more you repeat it and you hear it out loud and you engage, I do that a lot. I have tapes from Tony Robbins to the Think and Grow Rich or everything in my car. I don't want to say that I listen all the time because I like music, but I very often put them in my car and I do that. And when I'm grateful, I express myself of being grateful and I say it. So sometimes I'm in my car saying something and yelling in the car like crazy, and I'll turn around, there are people looking at me like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? So doing those things really activates something. That answer your question?
And you spend time thinking about what you want.
All the time. I mean, I don't stop.
Steve Rotman, thank you for
Hi.
your talk. Clearly you're doing a lot of things right. I'm wondering if you want to become the #1 real estate agent, what do you think are the things that you'll have to change? What are your challenges to that goal?
Great question. So you're having tremendous success now. Do you think you have to change anything to become the best?
Yes, that's why I'm working with Steve. He's the one who's going to help me do that. I mean, to be the #1 is volume on sales, right? And to get to those big numbers, you need to sell bigger houses. So for me, the goal is to really start selling big houses to get you to that number faster without stopping my active business, which is very healthy. And that's going to require for me to be surrounded with help. And I feel that where I am, I have a lot of help. So, it's surrounding with people that are going to be able to support me to get there while I can focus more on the bigger numbers. That's what I think right now. I don't know if I'm wrong, but he's going to correct me if I'm wrong.
The thing for a lot of agents, this is where coaching comes in, he knows what he needs to do. Having someone who's saying, yes, that is the thing to do. Go do it. Oftentimes, most of the time, if not all the time, you know what you need to do. However, you question yourself. And that's where coaching comes in. And that's what I want to do with Santiago, is this guy can do it. I know that. And I want to be that voice of, yes, you can, in his ear all the time. And then it just simply becomes a matter of how do you structure the business around him. He's got all the talent, he's got the drive, he's got what it takes. It's just organizing it so you're going forward all the time. Other questions?
So you just have the one assistant,
One assistant.
all the business you do?
Yeah.
And do you show all your listings, the buyers, you're doing all of those appointments?
Talk about that. You have high-end listings.
Yeah.
When we first met, part of the challenge, everyone wants you.
Right.
They don't want to see someone else. So how do you deal with all the demands of having these listings, having buyers? It's a stretch, correct?
Yeah, so yes, it's hard. Yeah, for most part I try because I like doing it, but it gets to a point where you can't. So you just have to set up the table from the beginning that you might not be the guy always showing it, that you'll do your best, but you need to let them know that it might be someone else.
So who would show it?
Someone in my own company, and if I bring an agent that works close in the office or knows or understands the area, I'll bring him into the listing for a percentage, and then they'll show it. They'll be introduced to that client, or it will be my assistant if she needs to.
So the thing that's a little different with the agency, rather than having your own team,
Right.
you've got the company as a team, and you're hand-picking people to help you on different listings.
And I'm just starting to do that. It's not something that I've been doing, I'm starting to organize it that way.
That answer your question?
Ray Casado's agency, Senor.
Hi.
Can you speak to discipline?
Say it again.
Can you speak a little about discipline?
Can you ask a more specific question?
I just feel like discipline is something that you are inherently blessed with or that you've been trained with.
She's seen it. She was my assistant, and she turned into a sales associate now at the agency, and she's great.
So, did you come out of the womb being disciplined?
I don't know if that happened that way, but I did martial arts for 16 years, and I went to the army for a year. So I mean, I was either came out or I became.
Okay.
And Rainey's seen it, you know. I mean, I told her to be in the office when I hired her as an assistant at 9 o'clock, and she was showing up at 9:15, 9:20, 9:15. I was like, okay, let's change your schedule to 9:30, but show up at 9:30. And that's why she's saying that, because I like to be on time, and I like to do things. I'm very methodical, you know. I mean, you can ask people that know me that I go to the gym every night. I go to the gym every night. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. And I think it becomes, you know, part of your life to have everything organized, because it works, you know. I mean, if you're gonna go every night there, then the result's gonna show up.
What are some of the tough choices that you have to make on a daily basis to keep yourself from being distracted?
No eating lunch, sometimes. You know, sometimes you don't have the time to eat lunch. Sometimes the toughest choices is when you're dealing with a client that needs a lot of talk, a lot of holding hands, and it's really not that necessary that you're talking to him 50 times a day and just, you know, no answer the phone call, you know, and focusing on the other client that takes less time that you're dealing with at the moment. So you need to respect your time too. Every time your phone rings, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to answer. Every time someone sends an email and is freaking out, you don't need to go back and run and respond to that. Because if you do that, then you dig your own grave. Then you need to answer. Because you answer once at 11 o'clock at night, then you're going to answer every night at 11 o'clock at night. So that was tough at a point in time. Like now the new challenge became telling them that I'm not going to be doing the showings, give me the listing. That was one of the things. It's like, okay, I'm not going to answer this guy right now. I'll deal with him later. So.
Great.
No.
So, good question.
Yeah.
Was there anything you did specifically to keep bumping your price point up?
I wanted to join organizations, and I wanted to be in those kind of things, but either I didn't have the time or the opportunity really didn't come up. I don't think if I did.
I think the big thing is you were just never afraid of.
Yeah,
If someone said, "Here's a $50 million listing opportunity,"
I go.
You'll go. You'll figure it out.
Yep.
And a lot of agents won't do that. A lot of agents won't do that. Mentally, they won't do that. So it's not, you know, not having that fear. You heard Carla Harris say it. You know, fear. There's no place for fear in your success equation. Are you a 5% agent, 6%? What's the deal with commissions?
I did 6% commission for a while, and when the crisis hit, I went to 5. I still have 5 for most part. I do 6 sometimes. With leases, I do 10, and I keep 7 and I give 3 because I spend a lot of money on marketing. And in the times that is leases that are small, I'm talking about big leases, or like, you know, 50,000, 60 and up. For the leases that are smaller, I usually take the 10 and I give 5 and 5 or 6 and 4 or something like that. It's been 5%, and that's something that we're talking with Steve to try to bump it.
Do you find the higher end clients are trying to grind you down to 4.5 or 4 or less?
It's not always the same. I mean, there are guys that you're selling houses for 20 million that they want to pay you 3 in total, and there are guys that don't even talk about it. I mean, there are people that it's irrelevant, you know. It's like, you just get my house sold for that number, and I'll pay your fee. So
for you, it's really no different. Commission price doesn't really impact it.
No, because I mean, if you get a $1 million house to sell, the things that you're going to be doing to market that house they don't compare with the 12,000 video you're going to have to shoot for a $30 million house. So you're spending, you know, it's all equivalent, you know. You get a bigger listing, you need to spend more money, you know.
Great. It really wasn't a transition.
There was no transition. I was always wanting to do the big ones, and the small ones came by default because I was dealing with that at first, and then it just happened. And one day from 1 million, I got a call for a listing appointment for 5, and I went into 5, And then I met people that wanted to buy $5-8 million houses, and it just happened like that.
He wanted to sell high-end homes, and that's what he does.
Business managers don't want to meet with us. They have no interest on sitting down and meeting and buying them. You're going to waste your time and your money on lunch because they know who they're working with already. You get introduced to business managers through your clients. You want your client to tell your business manager, this is my guy. And then you want to do a good job, so then he might use you in the future.
How do you have any balance in your life? Do you try and create balance?
You got to create it. I mean, it's not going to happen. You've seen it. When it's time to be with my family, I make sure that there is no any urgency that I'm going to have to talk, and I turn off my cell phone, or I call my assistant and say, deal with this and this, I'm not available, and I turn off my cell phone, and I spend time with my family. When I go on vacation, I wake up early in the morning, I check emails for 2 hours, I make a few phone calls, and my phone stays in the safe at the hotel closet. So you just have to do it, you know, you have to. When I go to the gym, I see people, they go and they're working out with their cell phones, and they're like exercising, and then they stop, and that doesn't work for me. The phone stays in the locker, and I'm going to exercise. So it's just you getting used to it, getting comfortable with, you know, you need to give time to yourself, because if you don't do it, then you're not going to operate 100%. You need to take care of yourself. And there is days, I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, people think I'm crazy, but I'm dealing with an escrow that is uber challenging. It's about to, you know, fall out of escrow. And I just can't deal talking to these people anymore. And it's not helping because now I'm all frustrated. And I cannot be frustrated talking to these people to get them to do something. So I turn on my cell phone and I go and watch a movie in the movie theater at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Sci-fi, eating popcorn, and I forget about the deal. And when I get out of the thing, normally it's a good text message in the end. Gotta go.
And you said it earlier, you love life.
I do.
You know, you're not living to work. You're working to live.
Right.
And you like having fun.
I do. A lot.
Where have you always been a confident person?
I suppose when I was a kid, I was a little bit more shy, and I can see that on my son. It's weird. It's like me, a mini-me, you know?
How old are your boys?
7 and 5.
7 and 5.
Yeah, the 5-year-old not so much. He's not shy at all. The 7-year-old is shy. It's just me. I can see myself, and I see him going through what I went through, you know, in sports, that he doesn't really get out there, you know. I see those, and I remember when I was there, and all it took is for maybe a good friends, great parents that I have, people that believe in me before I believe in me. People that were telling me, you're going to do great. I just know it. I had a friend from Bolivia that he always tell me, don't worry about it, you're going to have that. Don't worry about it, you're going to be there. And one day I was like, I'm sick of you telling me I'm going to have all these things. I don't have anything. How you think I'm going to have it, you know? So he's like, you'll see. It'll happen. So when people believe in you, how can you not believe in you? You know? It's like, you gotta love yourself. And I'm not talking about I love myself, I look beautiful, I'm in the mirror, whatever. It's like, you gotta love who you are, because if you don't love who you are, nobody's gonna love you. You gotta love yourself so you can exude that from inside so people can feel it. That's what I think. Thank you.
Well, Santiago, thank you very much. We appreciate your being here.
Thank you, man. All right, we want to head out.